right, welcome to week 5. Man, these things just keep rolling by. Good to see you again. So let's just get right to it. We're going to tie a real easy fly that's going to kind of lead us into the woolly bugger, which we're going to do for our final week next week in week 6. And this is called the Carry Special. This fly was developed by a man up in British Columbia back in 1925. It's wild to think that this pattern is almost 99 years old. I believe the man's name was, I'm having a brain fart, but I think his name was Lloyd Day. And it got the name Carry Special because of a Colonel Carey. And he kind of popularized it, and then it became kind of a thing after that. Now this fly is developed, or was developed and works, let me rephrase that. It's fished more in still water, so think lakes, reservoirs, that type of thing. But you can get these to work in river systems too. And so what you see in the vise is the very similar representation to the original. It's got pheasant fibers. This word off the back where it's got this, off the breast where it's got this kind of greenish blue color to it. And they use it for the tail and the head. And so this would be very close to what it looks like. We're going to add a couple bells and whistles because you know how I like to do that. And so let's just get started. And then also, just for reference, this is the one that I like to use in my neck of the woods because I'm down in Missouri. And this just happens to represent some bait fish and other things. For whatever reason, in my neck of the woods, they like this lighter color thing. So if you got a material kit, you'll see that there's a bunch of pheasant fibers in there, or pheasant feathers in there. And I absolutely sorted through 3 birds to get you the absolute best quality feathers. And then there's like a little nymph version that you can do as well. So we'll get into all of these, and just to have some fun, which this pattern is all about having fun. You can tie these in a wide range of colors and sizes, and so on. If you're familiar with Deb Pascal from, she lives up in British Columbia, I believe, but she's a big ambassador for Semperfly, and she's got a great video on the way that she likes to tie these, and using some more modern materials that Semperfly has. And so that's just another resource that if you want to get more into this pattern, which I recommend you do, that's just another video for you to check out. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling. So I'm going to start my thread back just a ways. I want to leave some room up at the head. The chenille is going to cover pretty much all of this. Let's get that started. My hand slipped there. I'm just going to take my thread back. We don't need a super nice underbody or anything. Just kind of get your thread started and start winding it back. Now the most common tail is in fact the that bluish green feather that I showed, and I'll use that on this one. But you can absolutely decide what you want to do. So I'm going to take my thread back to about the barb. Sorry, I'm still battling these like little sniffle colds. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to get rid of this philo feather. If you're wanting to look it up, it's PHILO, but it's a philo feather. And there's a few patterns that use them. I know Jack Gartside has a couple. I got this recipe out of Jack Dennis's book, and so we're gonna add to it just a little bit to just show few different techniques and things that you can do. So to start off with, we want to strip all this junk out the way, but this time I want you, because of how long it is and all this kind of nice marabou-ish stuff, I want you to save it, and we're gonna work with this because it's all natural material. So you'll see this here. Just save that, set it off to the side, and we'll kind of work with that on the next variation. So we're gonna have a little tail that looks like this. Now this fly is tied basically between a size 2 and a size 10. And so if you're tying down on a size 10, you might be able to just go ahead and say strip one side of your feather and then use the other side for your hackle if you have the big long fibers. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to kind of gather all these and try to get them to where the tips all come together, and you'll see how I've got stuff sticking off to the side. And this is why I said that you can actually start to use some of this stuff for your tailing material, because you're going to get rid of it anyway. So you can actually, this just happens to be one of those patterns that you can save some of the waste material and actually reincorporate it into the fly. You know, it's getting harder and harder to find those patterns these days. A couple ways you can do this. You can just tie your stem in directly on top with a couple of loose wraps, pinch the tip and pinch the stem and just pull kind of like so, and that'll work. We're looking to have a tail that's roughly about a hook gap and a half width in diameter, maybe a little, or I'm sorry, in distance, maybe a little bit longer. Again, this pattern you can play with an awful lot. So there's a lot more rights than there are wrongs to this fly. And so that tail's good enough for me, and I'll just start to wrap this guy forward. I want to use this to try to help keep somewhat of a decent underbody and eliminate bulk where I can. It's just good practice to do that kind of stuff. Now, if you got these big stems left over, just food for thought, you can actually save these, color them with a Sharpie marker, and then reuse them for things like stonefly legs and so on and so forth. It gets into a little bit more advanced fly tying, and we're not going to cover that here, but you could put these in a little baggie or something and save them for later. Pardon me. I've just got this little dry throat thing. It's been going around the community. So that said, next what we're going to do is add our rib. I'm just going to use some silver wire here. You can use gold wire or copper wire or black wire, or whatever you got, blue wire. We're using it in the brassy size, but I'm going to go with silver. I'm just going to tie this in on the bottom side and just work this guy back. If you get used to tying these, this is a very quick fly to tie, and so on. Okay, so what we're going to use for the body is olive chenille on this particular fly. And what I've got here is some sparkle chenille in olive from Nature's Spirit. Now, I really do like this stuff. I like the way it's core twisted with, it's basically Flashabou or a little bit of Mylar tinsel. And that's what you're getting for the speckling. Now, it comes on these cards, and for the life of me, I've never been able to figure out where they bury the ends of these cards. So I just have to pull some off the top and then cut it and find out where the ends are. I'm not sure how they wrap those, to be honest with you. So, sorry, I wish I had a little piece of advice for you on that, but I just don't. So once we cut off about a 6-7 inch piece, we're going to come to the tip, and we're just going to strip some of this stuff off. This is going to help eliminate the bulk, and now you can actually see that Mylar tinsel mixed in with the black thread. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie this in. Now, the nice thing about this is, actually, first off, we want to make sure that we're tying this in so that the chenille is meeting up with the back of the fly. And if it's not, you can put a few turns in and then use these tags to draw it down into the fly. So, get that out of the way. Maybe. There we go. So now we're just going to wrap forward, and we can kind of open spiral wrap this. And these things are not necessarily the easiest or friendliest things. They like to move around. There's some techniques that are, I don't know that they're more complicated, but there are a couple extra steps where you can measure everything out and tie them in going back and all that stuff. And we don't really need to do that, but if you're feeling adventurous and want to make these flies a little more perfect, you can do that. Okay, and so believe it or not, we're already like halfway home. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start to wrap the chenille or palm under the chenille. Now, when we get into next week with the woolly bugger, we want to kind of learn this lesson now. And I see people struggle with this a lot. They just want to wrap this like this, and the body ends up having these like dull spots like that. And we don't want that. We want to have a nice body. So the way we do this is when we're wrapping our chenille and we make a full turn around, before you make another full turn around, just get your fingers a little moist and and just draw everything to the back. And make a wrap, draw everything to the back. Make a wrap, draw everything to the back. And if you do this on every turn, it will almost always keep your body even. It's pretty rare that it won't, and if it doesn't, you just got a bad piece of chenille. But and you can use a ton of material for this, natural materials, chenilles, wools, oh boy, dubbing, so on and so forth. But so as we get closer to the front, what we're looking to do, oh, there it is just stay about 2 bodkin widths behind the eye. And we're going to tie this in on top, or tie it off on the top. With about 3 or 4 turns, kind of working forward. And what that's going to do is that's going to start to separate your chenille. You can see all the little fibers going one direction, and now all these other fibers are going an opposite direction. You can fold this over. If you do this, keep this material right on top. There's actually a purpose to this madness on keeping this material on top at this point. And that's going to have to do with how we're going to hackle the fly and how to keep the head cylindrical and even. Okay, so now that we have that, basically at this point what we would do is just use our rib and bring it forward. However, and there's always a however to life, what I'm going to do here is use some Flashabou, and you can use whatever color you got, but if you got a material kit, you've got this purple stuff. It's called Mirage or Opal, and they use it in several different names. So I'm just going to cut a little piece out of the hank. I'm going to go ahead and get a silver holographic one as well. Oh, that one was a little looser. It's a little bit longer too, but that's okay. So we're just going to have something about like this where I've got about 50-50 going on each side. You can see how these ones are shorter. You can cut them shorter if you like. I'm not going to mess with it too much. There it is. But we want to tie them in at about the halfway point, so you've got, roughly half each way. And I do have a separate video on this, so we're going to tie this in. I'm just going to line this up with the back side of my shank, put a wrap over. Oh, I'm going to catch my thread there and lift it back up. Put one wrap over. Now I can start to turn my Flashabou, and we're going to figure 8, come up and over. Takes a little finger work, and that's okay. And then from this back side forward. And again, I've got a video I just did recently on how to do this, where we can capture all that Flashabou in, and really easy. And so now once it's all like so and running to the back, I'm just going to collect it and put it to the back, and then or hold it to the back, and then just put a few extra wraps in like so. Okay, fairly simple. Now the tricky part is we're going to rib this flash into place. So we're going to bring our rib down below. We're going to gather our flash, bring it along the sides. They don't have to actually touch or anything like that. You can see I've got some spacing there. And I'm just going to bring it over just gently and start to work this rib forward. And so the wire rib is going to actually lock down our Flashabou, so we don't have to have some crazy thread wraps and all that stuff. And you can add flash very simply this way. You can also use this with crystal flash or something like that. But it just kind of adds a little flavor to the fly. is very optional. You can do it or not do it. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to tie my wire off on the top side. I'm going to fold it over. Oh, I'm going to come forward a little bit more. I'm going to fold it over and then tie it off again, going to the back on the top side. Nice and tight, really tight wraps. And now we can helicopter this guy off. And again, this is just an easy way to add a little bit of flash. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and cut out the tips of your flash boot to however long that you want them. Some people like them a little bit short of the tail. Some like them a little bit long. You'll have to experiment with what you like and what works best for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim those off there. And now we've got flash coming across both sides. And again, you don't have to make it, perfect or anything like that. It's just something to build a little bit of a traction to your water or to your fly for your waters. And you can make this so that the flash boom moves around the shank or however you like to do that. That's totally up to you. So again, play around with it. Okay, so now we're on to the hackle. If you remember back in, week 2 for the partridge and orange, we built a little prop right here. If you want your soft hackle, this was essentially what this is going to be. If you want your soft hackle to pop open or help pop open your hackle a little bit more, we can build a little soft collar here. Sorry, sometimes I get lost for words. And I'm just going to use a little hare's ear to do that. I don't normally do this, but it's something that I've seen done, and it's a fairly common trait to add a little dubbing ball or something like that right up front to just kind of help build a little girth so that the feather doesn't collapse quite as much and allow those fibers to move in the water a little bit more. So this again is optional. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. If you want to do it with some other material, then do it with some other material. You can do that. So I'm just going to leave it kind of like that just to help a little bit. Maybe you want a little color change or something like that. So that's just kind of the thought process for there. Normally I'd make this a little bit bigger, but I want to keep this moving because we're going to do another version. So again, I've got all this kind of marabou tuft, or down as they call it, off the side. I'm going to strip this off. I'm going to put that in my pile for the next version that we do. Pardon me. Sorry, I don't mean to be sniffling so much. So now we've got a feather that looks like this. We're going to strip some of the fibers back. Traditionally, these flies have very long fibers moving to the back. I've actually seen some like steelhead and salmon versions of this fly. And so again, this is something that you can play around with a ton of colors, a ton of material. And you're absolutely not limited to what we're working with here. So just take all these techniques and kind of build upon them. So I'm going to take this feather and aim it down a little bit, tie that in, and fold it over. I'm going to do this on the tire side so that I'm building the bulk on my side with this feather. This is going to be thinner, right? We got thinner fibers here. And so when we come to the other side, when we tie off the stem, we're going to tie it off on the far side so that it helps counter the bulk and helps build a little bit better or more cylindrical head. So we're going to take these fibers and just start to double them over just real gently. Again, there's different methods that people use to do this. And we're just going to get, 2 or 3 turns in. That's all we're looking for. Come around. You can put your finger here like we talked about. I think it was back in week 2 or 3. You can pack them nice and tight, kind of like so. Okay, so now when we get to this point, we have everything on there that we want to use. Okay, now we can actually come in and start to pull these fibers off. And this is the best way I've ever found to do it, is just actually wrap this feather until you get it to where you want it. and then tie it off. And then what that does is that helps eliminate, uh-oh, rolled on me. It helps eliminate any extra barbs that could just start going like haywire, which they will sometimes, especially on this long stuff. You can see this one's starting to stick out front. Don't try to save those. If it's a problem, just get rid of it. Okay, I'm just going to pinch everything, hold it tight with my fingers, and I'm going to start placing wraps in, working to the back. Okay, and that should really lock everything in. Now we're going to use this stem on the far side to try to help build up. Oh, I just stuck myself good. Build up the girth on the back side. So if I turn my fly to the side, you'll see how I've got this little extra bump here, but not right there. And so we're going to use this stem to help build that little bump on the other side of the fly. And this will help, again, get your head to become a little more natural looking and everything else. And now we're just going to work back just a little bit. We're going to work right back into that feather. You can use beads or cones or all kinds of stuff here to help weight the fly. So on and so forth. Again, I'm just going to break that off. Oh, I got some blood on my fingers there. That one really stuck me. Took my finger right into that one. But you can use beads or cones or lead wire, all of that stuff. I think one of the coolest things about this pattern is it's so simple to tie. And not only is it so simple, you can use so many materials that you can really just play around with it and do whatever it is you want to do and try to mimic little bait fish and all kinds of stuff in your waters. And that's one of the things that's made this a classic fly. This one's not talked about as much as like the woolly bugger or the partridge and orange or things of that, but this pattern is truly a classic pattern, and it's been around for this 100 years for a reason. It just works. I mean, it's hard to argue that point. So tie it in your color. So we're going to go ahead and color up our thread, and we're going to start to put some glue on there, let it saturate in, color up some more. Probably do this 2 or 3 times. And you can see that little stem sticking out. That's okay. See, there's that little lump of a stem. No big deal. Don't worry about trying to hide that. We're not here to win a contest. We're here to build a fly that's going to work. So just keep that in mind, right? If you want to build contest flies, that's great, but that's not what we're doing here. So we're building confidence. We're making flies that work, and that's it. And I can promise you that a fish is not going to notice that. And quite frankly, how many little minnows or something have you seen that have some sort of deformity on the head, right? So I mean, if you can take care of it and you want to, and it's bugging you that bad, go for it. If not, don't worry about it. You saw on the other flies that that didn't happen to me. I just happened to work too far into the thick part of the rachius on this one. So, okay, so now we got that ugly head, right? So you want an easy way to fix that? Now we can use some UV. It's really not necessary, but we'll go ahead and do it just to make it look nice. You can get some out of there. And so we'll just take a little of UV and dab it on and start to make that head look a little better. I didn't get quite enough there. Oops. Uh-oh. Got some right in the eye on that. Now, another cool thing you can use for these is to slide that in there. Clean it out before you use your torch. So I'll admit, the head on this fly is not by any means the best I've ever done. But it's definitely something I don't mind going and throwing in the water. Sometimes maybe people just need a reinforcement that not every fly has to look perfect, because they won't. All right, so we got this one done. And again, this is the one that works well in my waters here in Missouri. But so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a smaller hook in the vise. I'm going to use a size 10, and we're going to build this little, more of like a nymph version of it. So hang tight, and we'll be right back. All right, so let's jump into this second version. This is going to be a little bit more about technique than it is color per se, but if you got a material kit, you got some pheasant feather that looks like this. And so we're going to use a good chunk of this right here. And so you can actually make these flies in whatever color of the pheasant you'd like. In this particular case, this is going to come out more of like a March brown type coloring. So you might be able to fool some trout with the March brown coloring. But again, this is going to be a little bit more about technique and how to apply different techniques to your fly and save on material. So what we're going to do is just separate the tip out until we just got, basically even stem. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you can save this for like a little caddis wing or something like that if you'd like. I've seen people do that. So, but we're going to just go ahead and cut this out. We don't need it for right now. That's good. We'll set this aside. So we're going to go ahead and start our thread. Well, about an worth 2 behind the eye. Just leave enough room for a head, and we'll work back. Again, you can start to use all the different techniques that we've done in the past or over the course of this session. You can add your flashback, you can build your tapers, you can get some pheasant tail legs going on if you like, or a tail if you like, although we're going to use this for the tail. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just separate out again a little section, just so that we've got about a shank length or so hanging out the back. And you can actually strip these off if you like, or we can tie them in just like this. I'm going to tie them in just like this. I'm going to kind of show you something. So if I lick my fingers and just start to rotate all this around, it's going to become a hot mess, which is exactly sort of what we're looking for. So that it kind of roughs them up a little bit. They don't necessarily want to stick together. And this is just going to kind of help provide the tail so it stays open, sort of like so. Gives you a little bit more movement. And now we can tie this in. You want to try to get it so that the curvature is facing down if possible. But again, this is not like a deal breaker. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just place a couple loose turns over that bare stem. And now we can start to shorten this distance to the distance that you want the tail to be. In this case, I'll go, again, about a shank length. And we'll tie this in coming forward. And this is just kind of one of those old school techniques that you don't see used a whole lot anymore. And we'll just clip that out. Now you can see that there's not a whole lot of difference in the body. And so we'll save this piece here, the feather tip, or what's left of it anyway. And you can go back and forth and build your taper now if you like, or leave the taper out. It's not going to matter a ton because we're going to dub this. So I'm just going to come back until I'm about at the hook point, so I've got enough room to go ahead and rotate this over and start to combine the material. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take some rabbit mask that I've got left over, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get rid of that phyllo feather again, and I'm going to strip the sides just like we would normally do on prepping stuck to me, on prepping a feather. Just get it all out of there and set it aside. So now what we can do is we're going to take this stuff here, and it's easiest if you just kind of collect it and put it in your hands, and we're going to clip this off the rachias. And what about over there? So let's see, where'd my long scissors go? We'll just clip that off. You want to get rid of any leftover bits of stem. The rachius is the stem. It's just the proper name for it, I suppose. And so now that we have this, we can start to just kind of rip it and pull it. So we've kind of got this like marabou fuzz that we're going to help turn into dubbing. And all we're looking to do is change the color. So now we can take this old hare's mask and we're going to kind of blend it together and start to put it all together until we have this like brown gray color. Similar again to like a March brown type coloring, and but you can try this with all the different colored pheasant body parts, or I'm sorry, the pheasant feather parts. Almost sounded like I was like, hey, get the gizzard out there. No, I don't mean that, but we can start to play around with it here, and we're just going to blend it together. Again, if you got a coffee grinder, this is a great way to use a coffee grinder. And so now you can kind of see we've got this grayish, brownish color. I want to go ahead and get the other side incorporated into that, just to kind of make it a little bit more on the gray side. See if I can just rip this stuff. Yeah, see, when you've already ripped it, it doesn't want to rip off again very well. Not easily anyway. So just kind of come in and do the same. Make sure the stems are out. And just rip it in half. Sorry, I don't mean to be out of camera. Let's go ahead and add it to the pile and blend it together again. And we're going to use this for the dubbing. If you wanted to do a flashback here, we can put a flashback in real quick, just for fun. I don't have one ready, but I got a gold piece right here. So we'll do a gold one. Again, this is just for fun. You can decide what you want to do. And we'll just bring it back. Trying to keep it flat across the top. Okay, we'll come back forward. Now, if you're not used to working with natural dubbings like this, especially with the blended stuff, use a little wax, and that should help you out. And then also don't forget to just kind of pick and pull little bits until all your fibers start to line up, and then we can just take a little bit and add it directly onto the shank. Use a little of the spittle. There we go, clump there. And we'll just start to get it going. We don't need it perfect yet. We can handle all that in a minute. And just kind of come back. All right, now we'll come back forward. And we'll just use this to start to build our body. And do the same thing, just kind of pick and pull. Sorry, I'm not doing it all on camera. I'm trying to speed this part up so the video isn't extraordinarily long, but I did want to show a couple of these techniques just to help you along in your fly tying journey, and let you know that you can, as long as you start learning the techniques, you can really start to do whatever you want. You just got to know how to use those techniques. Okay, and I'll need a little bit more. Not much, just a little bit. And blend it right back in. You see how that just blends right back into that noodle? You could also add a rib here if you like. Up to you. Wing case. I guess you don't really need the legs. I said pheasant legs, but you don't really need the legs. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and draw this back over. Bring it again right on top of that hook eye. This is where a rib would come in handy, but again, you don't have to have that if you don't want. It does protect better though, I'll be honest with you. Plus gives a little bit of weight, a little extra look. Okay, now let me go back to this feather. So what we're going to do here is just come down a ways and separate the two like so. We're going to come right along the sides of the stem and just trim close so we kind of give it this little buzz cut, as Jim Assure liked to say, buzz cut, sort of like that. And it'll help you grab this and capture it and tie it in a little bit. Again, we'll just fold it over. You can cut it into the diamond like we did. This feather is a little bit more sturdy, so it's a little more forgiving. We did that right on top. I should have done that on the side, but that's okay. Now we'll just fold this over or double it over. And we'll start to wrap this guy forward, giving it a similar feel to a March brown, or even a different colored hare's ear, something along those lines. Even maybe a different type of spider. Until we get right up front. And again, if you feel brave enough, just figure out where it is you want to stop. Stop it right on top, pull off your extra. Oh, trapped a few fibers. That's okay. We can realign them in just a second. And we'll fold that stem to the back, tying it down. That stem's pretty thick. I'm not sure it's going to want to break for me. Cuticle clippers also work really good. Of course I said that. No, it's not. There it goes. I jinxed myself. And so now we can start to tie this in and just kind of build this head back and forth. And now we can color it. You can color it again with whatever you like. And now you have a good lead fly, especially if you were to put some like lead or something underneath, help get it down heavier and drop a nymph down behind it, kind of an attractor, put a bead on if you like. So you've got options here. But again, this one's just kind of about the techniques on how to utilize one feather to build like basically an entire fly. And you could actually just use all of that down part or the marabou looking stuff if you like to build the fly. We'll go ahead and color this one brown. You can also color that thread underbody if you're using white, or just use your colored thread that you like, brown, black, whatever it is. Okay. I'm just going to work that and let it start to soak in. Color it up again. Probably don't need any more glue. I put a lot of glue on that one. Those beads were pretty thick. All right. I'm going to bring my thread to the back of the head, and we'll whip finish coming forward. Uh-oh, I definitely got some glue down there on that one. Where'd that stem go? Well, I got a different one. So another use for these little stems is actually, you can see that eye, how all that glue just soaked down into there. You can actually take these little stems and start to clean that out to open your eye back up. So there's another use for those little stems that are sitting on your desk that you think are trash. And that's it for week 5. Okay, we've been moving right along. So those are some cool techniques. Again, some of them are just kind of being duplicated in different ways. And that's actually kind of what we do here during the class videos. And so really appreciate you guys sticking around, gals for that matter, and following along. And hopefully you've been having a good time. Don't forget to drop a comment below and give me some thoughts on something that you would like to see done in the future. And maybe we can make that happen. I've been thinking, deer hair has been on my mind. I've been talked about for the last about year and a half, or maybe 2 years now. I've had some people really want me to tackle deer hair again a little more extensively than I did the first time. So maybe if that's something you're interested in, let me know below. Always give me a thumbs up, smash the like button. Appreciate it very much. Helps the algorithm push it forward. And tell your friends, tell your family, and make sure you check us out over at flyvault.net. We're doing some cool things over there. We've got some digital tools we're bringing out for fly tyers and fly fishermen. We've got a lot of big ideas that we're working on bringing forth. So make sure you come over and become a member over there. It's only a few bucks a month, and that's a good way to support us if you like what we're doing. So other than that, everybody, happy tying, take care, and I will see you in week 6, the final week, for the woolly bugger. And we're gonna have a lot of fun with the woolly bugger. We're gonna really expand. It'll probably be a long video. It may be close to an hour for the woolly bugger. So we're gonna do several versions, show you numerous techniques, explain why things are done the way they are, and so come on over and watch that one next week when it comes out. Happy tying, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you next week.